Hey everybody, what's up? Before we get to today's episode, I have to talk about this coronavirus thing. And I know, look, we are nothing but inundated by it, but there's a lot of fear out there. So today is March 16th, 2020, and this virus will no doubt have a substantive impact on real estate. We just had last Thursday, we had the worst day on the stock market since 1987. We had the Trump administration declare a national emergency last Friday. And the impact of this COVID-19 on the housing market is still unfolding, and we're going to continue to see it unfold. The 2020 housing forecast, again, because we're having this blip, will no doubt be trending downward. Now, how far down, how deep, we're not sure. We'll see. But it's going to go downward despite the fact that, the Fed yesterday, they had an emergency meeting. Last week, they had two emergency meetings. Sunday, they slashed their rates to near zero. They injected $700 billion into the economy to make sure that we did not slow down. And some of this already is starting to play out. Refinance and mortgage rates, mortgage applications jumped 79% for refinance and 55.4% on new mortgage rates. Now, the average 30-year fixed rate fell to just 3.13%. Now, I just want to talk about this. I normally don't talk about things like this, but it's all on our minds. And I think at times like this, we need to work on the facts as we have them, the facts, instead of what we see people doing all over the place, which is playing out in their heads, what if scenarios, what if this happens, what if that happens, and when we run what if scenarios, it's always to the worst case, right? Yeah, everybody's like, oh, I get it. My parents and grandparents are dying and I lose my job. And okay, none of that stuff is happening right now. And if we really think about the facts, right, in the United States, the three states that have the biggest cases of coronavirus are New York, right? Super populated with 732 cases. That's not a ton, right? Washington, which was where we saw the first outbreak, right? This is Washington State, the 634 cases. And California, as of this morning, 9 a.m. this morning, we had 335 cases, okay? What is that? 1,600 with a population of 320 million in the United States? Now, of course, these numbers will most likely get worse as more cases are being reported and after we set up actual testing facilities. But right now, as a nation, we are exhibiting an overabundance of caution, which is great, and we should be okay. Here in California, schools are shutting down for the next 5 weeks. Now, this is a time, obviously, to be cautious, but we are not at the point of freaking out. Now, there are going to be those among us that will believe this is the end of the world, right? Whenever these things happen, we see gun sales skyrocketing, and we're seeing that. There's a lot of people who want to believe the sky is falling. And right now, for those people who think that it's the end of the world, the sky's falling, those are the people we should be targeting to sell their homes. There's a lot of people on the sidelines right now, and they have been. And right now just might be the time that you can get in there and list their houses, or buy their houses cheap. People are already, literally, man, the way that the market is reacting to this virus is so rapid. It's so much faster than what we saw in 2008. Now, this is with social distancing, this is a perfect time, I think, to hone your email skills, to hone your phone skills, and to do something new to market your business, whereby you are not sitting in somebody's living room or walking around out in the world. Now, I've always said this, right? Your business, I don't care if you're doing 20 deals or 200 deals, your business is your database. And the vast majority of you listening right now, you're not marketing to your database. And if you think you are, I can tell you you're probably not doing it the right way. And right now, I think in this world, as I said, of social distancing, it's more important than ever to reach out to your database, keep everybody up to speed with what's going on, right? Just the facts, and do that via email and text. Now, if you guys don't know, a few years ago, we built a site for this. We have a site. It's called copyandsend.com. We wrote 300 plus, like 320 or something, email templates. So if you don't know what to say, you don't know, how to talk to your database, just go to copyandsend.com, subscribe. It's the easiest way to get new listings and build a better relationship with your database. Now, some of those of you listening right now want to do something new, which I'm all for, right? The people, I will tell you a couple things. The people that killed it with radio are the people that in 2008, 2009 kept doing it or started to do it. Those are the people that got on top and have stayed on top. So you should consider, I would say, consider radio. But if you want to do something cheaper and something that you can control more, why don't you start a podcast? We have a podcasting service called Viralcast, viralcast.com with a K, Viralcast with a K. We'll get you set up with a professional home studio. You can start doing interviews and building a whole new set of relationships, which again is your business. This is a perfect time to start your own podcast. Build a base of listeners that will pay off year after year. I have to tell you, it's amazing how many new opportunities will come your way with some brand new exposure. In today's world, exposure is the new social capital. Go check out viralcast.com. That's Viralcast with a K. All right, let's get to it. Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Salgado, and I made my first million in real estate. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go. Yeah.
Today on the show, we've had everybody on the show. We've had all the big trainers from here in America, Australia, everywhere. We've never had one from Canada. Today's guest is one of the premier trainers in Canada, training individuals and teams, trying to get them to, I think, 100 units or more. I'm thrilled to welcome Kathleen Black. Kathleen, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to chat and connect with everyone.
Fantastic. Okay, look, really quickly, we're going to get into what you're doing, what your secret sauce is, but take just a minute and tell a little bit about everybody about who you are.
Well, I originally, now I focus, our niche is team development. So I've spent 11 years full time working with top producers to help them step by step scale their business into top 1% teams nationally for their brand. So at this point, about 80% of our clients on the team level are top 1% nationally. So we help them, again, systematically expand. I got into the business as an investor and then got my real estate license and got busy really, really quickly. And essentially decided I wanted to help other people kind of be more efficient, which led to team expansion, which I love.
Okay. And that's good. So let's go back, right? So you started as an investor. Like, I mean, what did you go to school for? Like, how did you get to the point where you're an investor and then an agent and then coaching?
Oh, okay, way back.
Right. We want to know how you. I mean, look, you're the person here that helps people get to 100+ deals. So that just doesn't happen overnight, right? So we want to hear a little bit about sort of how you developed, how your mindset developed, how your learning developed to get you here, so that you can take other people from there to here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I went to university for psychology, so I had that background, but I came out of university and essentially, single mom, I was managing dental offices. So ironically, I helped them with a lot of systems, scripting, like just making sure everything was efficient and help manage what used to be the ironically biggest dental office in Canada for providers. So how do you get their schedules going and keep them full and reminder calls and make sure that they're billing, every minute as possible. But later on, I got married, and what we did was buy properties, gut them completely and turn them into multi-unit. And it kind of did it, the old school, no money kind of way. They dubbed us No Money Miracle, because we essentially, transition them enough so that one apartment was livable, move into that, finish the rest, refinance, go on to the next property. But we were constantly struggling with trying to communicate how to assess these properties with the realtor. We had a lovely realtor. He was a great man. He taught me a lot. But when it came to assessing for, return and profitability,
Sure.
it wasn't happening, right? So I got my license. 2 little kids, didn't want to because I was already lugging them around to investment properties and painting and sanding and lots of sweat equity.
Right.
A ton, and showing properties and tenants and all that stuff. But essentially got my license and didn't plan to use it for anything other than expanding our portfolio. But I ended up to go with interview about 20 different, brokers, teams, all different platforms. And at the end of the day, I went with a team because I truly believed I would get, 10 years of real estate experience in 1 year, max 2 years, and then I'd kind of be on my way. And, 2 years later in the business, I had the highest center of influence repeat referral on the team. I had built up a strong database, and all the people who I was close to who got into real estate at the same time as me had left the industry.
Right.
So I decided to, and I ended up to get separated within, a couple of months of getting my license. So that made it extra fun. So I always say, I had the fire of, I didn't have a choice. I mean, I had to be successful at real estate. I was an instant breadwinner from not being one before. But that team got into coaching and started to develop a team coaching platform. And they kept, the team manager kept saying to me, like, how are you selling as much as our top people, but working half the time, which is the gift of single parenting. And I kind of decided, the efficiency and systems was something I loved. And I love, personal development and transformation. And that's been my whole life. And I was really passionate about doing that. So I got into their coaching company and director of coaching. And essentially coaching companies are kind of like real estate teams, which are kind of like restaurants where, the success rate of them are not great. And the two of the 3 owners essentially just were not getting along. And I had this notion I could run the coaching company. So
Kathleen, hold on a second. I'm going to interrupt you as we go along because
please go.
Good. Perfect. Because you talk really fast. I talk really fast. And I think you're short-circuiting some of your story because some of the, here's an important theme, and I think I hear in your story, right? So if I go back to when you were buying houses, right, your real estate guy, right, agent, he didn't really know how to assess an investment property, right? Then you did that work, and that's not something you can necessarily go buy and book and say, okay, this kind of, So you had to learn that on the fly. And what you said right early on, you said you were painting and, sanding and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. You said sweat equity. And then, right, that theme of sweat equity to me continues on when you get your license because you were the person with the highest sphere of influence, the biggest database. All that stuff, you can't buy sphere, right? You can't really buy a database. So I hear hard work, right? I hear hard work trumps talent. So let's talk about, that putting in that sweat equity early and how, why it was so important to you to how you built your business. Am I off base with you?
No, you're not. I mean, I think, to be honest, maybe I hung around my grandparents a little bit too much, but I always expected to work hard, but work smart. I was never willing not to work smart. So, I think I always have felt if you work hard, you kind of, invest in mastery in something, that's where the rewards will come from, right? I always say my bounce back is pretty fast. That notion when I got into real estate and the coaching company, I think it's leaning into risk and leaning into, trusting that I have a relentless willpower if I'm going to commit to something. And I think that relentless willpower moves mountains, so to speak, or gets us up them at least. So I don't know if that's what you're getting at, but essentially.
Yeah, totally. That's again, this is what I'm hearing, right? I'm just taking this in as an audience. I don't know any more than the people that are listening.
Yeah.
So I hear that relentless drive of yours, right? You nothing's going to knock you down. You're going to get back up and do whatever you can to get to that next deal. Here's what I want to sort of talk about for a few minutes is, we all know that, we can all, every person on the planet loves Rocky, right? Rocky is the quintessential guy who's, gets knocked down and he keeps going and he gets to the top. Is that with you? How did you develop that? Were you just born with that? Were you just this little girl, 9 years old, running around with this relentless willpower, or did you somehow develop that along the way? Because if we can develop it, right, we can all be Rockies in our respective worlds.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, when I was young, I always had, everything I do now, or when I was young, was kind of, I had a vision of something or an idea, and I would get excited by the idea and putting it into play. But I think when I was young, I was a lot more scared. I think I came from a lot of mindset that was not empowered or optimal mindset. And I think that held me back. I always had the strong personality. I always had the strong willpower. I did not necessarily have the ability to target that energy in my benefit. And I left home young, and, I needed to basically take care of myself and then very quickly take care of a baby. Right. So, and go to university. I was so committed to going to university, and I was living in a cot in my friend's room. Right. But I was so committed to that. But it was a great experience because I learned to rely on myself, and I learned that, if you rely on people who are unreliable, you're not going to move anywhere. It's like a car with flat tires, right? And how often do we try to want things from people that they're not going to give us? Like, I'm more so built the life that I want, and I see that as being a gift. So yeah, I had people help me and kind of, get me into funding so I could go to university. But I think there were many moments where I had to kind of stand in storms and realize I was stronger than I thought, and I was more capable than I thought. But it was quite a journey to put it into a positive light. And that's why I look back and I always say all these opportunities I've had have been, maybe a chain of unfortunate events for other people, which led to kind of fire sales for me. But,
Sure.
It's like the fool's card, right? The fool's card is, if you knew what it was going to take, you might not have done it. But the reality is, once you jump off the cliff, you're already falling. You're going to figure it out. Like, hopefully you're going to swim and there's a lake at the bottom, right?
Right. Well, you're right. And so, like, and for you, right? So you left school early, right? And then all of a sudden it sounded like you were a single mom, So there's two things that drive us, right? Sometimes there's this desperation to survive that drives us. And it sounded a little bit early that you were in somewhat of that situation. And then a lot of people are not desperate to survive, but they have these big ideas, right? And they're like, oh yes, I want to do 100 units. I want to be a millionaire. I want to make, 7 figures a year. And, in my experience, it's often the people that start out with this need to survive that often are the ones that make it big. The people who don't have a strong driver in their lives, often give up, right? When they get that flat tire on their way to Las Vegas, they're like, forget it, man. Call a tow truck. I'm going to go back. So for you, was it more this, what was driving you, this need to survive and take care of your young kid, or did you have big dreams for being who you are today in your life? This trainer and, helping other people to achieve their dreams.
Well, yeah, I think that there was some survival, and I think I always felt my life was about more than me, and maybe it's because I come from a long line of firefighters and people, are in service. And I just always felt that, all these difficulties that I went through had to be for something. And I still feel that way. I still feel, I have a gift to bring to the world. And I think we all do. And I have a contribution, and it would be a shame not to do that. And I think the same reason that the people I work with have the success they do is the same reason that I do that. We're fascinated by testing what's possible, and we're fascinated by going towards and putting all of our energy into creating something. And, maybe our will creates it with a little bit of help with strong systems. I don't know. But yeah, I feel that my whole existence is to lean into what I can contribute and the gifts that I have. And I'm committed to doing that. Like, it's like people say, like, it couldn't have all been I didn't work this hard to get here to stop here. Right.
Right.
It couldn't have all been for nothing. Like, there's more there's more to come from it.
And I think that's great. And, I think here's again, I'm trying to see what really separates you, and hopefully everybody else is listening, because I want whatever positive traits you have. I would love people to hear that, understand it, digest it, and then emulate it. So, what I often see with people, right? They get into real estate or some kind of entrepreneur in any regard, and there's often this follow the leader kind of a thing. Oh, the top guy in my office is doing that. I'm going to try to do that, right? Maybe it's not the level but I'm going to try to do that. You didn't seem to do that, right? Because you very quickly, when you joined this team, because you wanted to be around experienced people and get, as you said, 10 years of experience. You quickly became the leader of that team, not by following the leader, but doing something on your own. It sounds like. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, yeah. No, at that time, I mean, I was amongst the highest producers. Like we had one who was, two, one who produced a little bit more than me and one who was above. And then years later, I mean, they went up. Like one of those producers sold 100 homes on their own eventually per year within the team, right? So we've worked with teams to go from 27 deals up to 500 deals per year within a relatively short time span. I think it's everything opposite of following the leader for me. Like our motto is model the best, forget the rest. Right? Like, so I don't want to waste my time on anything that's like average, subpar, and that's not for everybody. Some people think that's a elitist mindset. I don't at all. I think I want to put all my energy at what's possible. And if I waste time with things that are subpar, I'm never going to get to the beautiful place of building, what's magnificent.
Right. And I think you have to have an elitist mindset to become elite, right? If you want to be in the top 1%, you got to think and act like those guys. Okay. Or girls. So taking that person from 27 deals to 500 or 100, whatever number you want to,
sure.
What is that? I mean, because, is it mindset that we have to hone, or is it strategies and tactics that we need to implement? How do you on a high level, we can get into granular, but what do you do to help people achieve that kind of growth in their lives and their business?
Yeah, like it's an expansion strategy that we work with. So it's a mix. Like, first of all, I think, we bring what I believe all top teams or top brokerages bring, like the actual business mentality to the real estate industry, which I think is really important. We build teams like a strong, small business. So it is a combination of systems and tools and, checklists and onboarding and recruiting and all that fun stuff. We could go on and on and on, but without the right mindset, those systems are worthless.
Right.
So if I can't help somebody shift from a GCI mindset where, hey, this is my paycheck, I earned whatever it is, 5,000, 15,000, 100,000, it doesn't matter. If I can't help them shift from that perspective on the field to the bird's eye view of saying, hey, I'm selling in this business, now I'm a team leader in this business, and I'm a business owner and investor, potentially, right, or a person taking profit. If I can't help them shift to see the business differently, my tools in the long run will underperform for them. We still work with individual agents, and even last year we had multiple people like double their business, triple their business just by taking team mindset, team efficiency, and implementing that in their business. They don't even want a team, but the efficiency of team, like we have to have a return on everything we're investing in. So our lines are a lot tighter, our minimum standards are, higher. There's just a lot more quality control in those environments. So I help them to see the vision. I help them to shift if they're not there into towards mindset, which I think you kind of alluded to, an abundance mindset. Like I think all top teams are, hubs of abundance and positive thinking and, again, creating our realities. So we shift them into that first, but a big shift, and I wrote a book this year based on this, was, I spent a lot of years helping people build top 1% businesses only for them to feel trapped in them. And I didn't feel good about that.
Right.
Right. Not at all.
That's not a business, man. Well, hold on. Yeah. I'm just jumping in here. But so, I'll tell you, echoing something you said earlier. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time. I've had every big, team leader on the show. And, one thing that is very common with the people that are doing 100, 200, 1,000 deals is that they started off building their business like a business, right? As opposed to just somebody selling real estate. The problem is, I think for most people, when they can hear me say that and they can hear you say that and go, yeah, that's great, systems and processes, but they're like, crap, I don't need any systems. Why am I going to sit down and build a standard operating procedure book, right, or pamphlet when I'm only doing 8 deals this year? You know what I mean? So how do you how do you bridge that gap for people?
Yeah, I love that you said that. I mean, I think there's two ways we see it. Either that, I'm not there yet, so I don't want to build for what's not here, and I want to focus on sales, which is where my income is coming. Right. And building a business can feel really static and slow. And, in real estate, we're rewarded with so much dopamine. Like, here, you sign a new client, you have a new listing, you have another deal. Like, it's like instant gratification. So you go to build out this business, and it can feel very underwhelming for a lot of people. So we have that side of it. And then we have the other side of, okay, I see the vision of the team now. Now I know what I need to do. And they don't have any of the systems or the foundation, and they think it's just going to magically happen.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, all the people we've had the great growth with, it's been step by step, layer by layer. So what we do, and I don't want to say we trick our clients because we would never do that, but we start to we start to synthesize the team mentality into everything we do. So we start to, if we talk about goal setting, we talk about how that relates to, sales system. And then when we're training on goal setting, we're actually training their mindset for the exact same way we're going to deal with sales as a team, whether it's for them or for other recruits or onboarding. We're constantly, laying hints of, hey, when you recruit, this is going to be duplicatable, or hey, we want this in place because it's going to make it easier when we get to the next step. So we don't necessarily have them writing operations manuals for people who they haven't hired for yet, but we 100% are planting seeds and getting buy-in for what we're working on today, what we're working on next, and how all the pieces click. One of the most detrimental things I see people trying to build teams who usually get frustrated and end up not to do it is that they're taking information from multiple different sources. They're kind of, it's like they're dabbling in team building, but their systems don't click together. They're not integrated, and it makes it really hard to have accountability. Our systems work forward and backwards. So what does that mean? It means that if you're building with us with level 1, we've already considered what you're going to need at team level 8 of expansion, and you're not going to hit a cap. So all the advice I'm giving you now is based on what I know you're going to need then. So if I'm training on a recruitment model or compensation or onboarding, it's all to make sure that we can get the results that plug into the economic model, that makes sure you have the room to hire and expand, bring in more sales help, whatever it is later down the line. So our systems have already been reverse engineered with our top level in mind, if that makes sense.
So I hear what you're saying, and if we can explore this a little bit, because I hear what you're saying, but I one thing I completely agree with you on is that most people, right, the instant dopamine of a new deal, right? And especially when people are doing, 30 or less deals, it's all about deals, right? What's the next thing, and here's what I find, right? People at that level, 30 to 50 deals, they think their whole business is leads, right? Well, they talk to me and go, hey, Toby, I want to get to 100. What do I do? How do I get more leads? And I'm like, man, hold on, dude. I know you think that leads, right, drives everything. But so here's the mentality of most people, right? Most people are this single agent out there. They want to someday build a team. They want to someday build a company that is predictable, repeatable, and saleable. But with me, right, if I'm the guy and I'm only doing 8 or 10 deals this year, I have certain capacity, right? I can handle a certain number of leads, a certain number of deal flow every day, week, month, and year. And what the mentality is for most people is, oh, when I get more leads than I can handle, then I will add capacity, right? So people want to try to work up to their 95% of their capacity where they're almost overloaded, and then think that they're going to go and hire a buyer's agent, right? Or then implement some kind of system, or even hire some kind of admin. And it doesn't happen, right? Because once you get to this, now I'm taking over your interview. I'm sorry, Kathleen. But,
no, I get it.
But yeah. But when people get up to 95% or even 85% of their capacity, then they get into overwhelm, right? Then it's just like, okay, I'm just going to work on the deals that I have now, and then later. And then, and this is how I see, companies porpoising all the time. They get down, they have no deals. They're like, what do I got to do? And then all of a sudden they're deal rich, right? They're at capacity and they don't have. So how do you break that cycle for people?
Yeah, I'd say, some people we've broken that cycle with just, being proactive. Like I have some clients, or we are a team, but we've had some clients who are, just a little more safe in how they expand. But the reality is we've also had a lot of people who will then work with us to hire, have us train their people, have us on calls with them to get it all set up. And then they know what we're doing, they know the system, and have that person make the operations manual. So it's, the systems we're implementing, and it's still customized to their business because everyone has unique things and they want to feel their flair on it. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. A lot of time we're hiring too late. We're scared to hire. And usually in talks, I say, most of the people in the room, when I'm speaking to rooms of realtors who are trying to expand, they're not really teams yet. Most of them are demoting themselves every month, every day, every year because their time is worth more. They could replace their time with more face-to-face with clients, but they're not because they're scared to pay for support. But we all know the age-old thing with leverage. I mean, that support is worth much less at market value per hour. So they're literally demoting themselves. So I agree 100% that people wait too long. I also know 80% of the population, and working with, mindset, I think it might even be higher than that, but 80% are only going to do anything when it becomes too painful or when they're too scared they're going to risk what they have. And that's unfortunate. It's only 20% who are like, hey, there's a better way to do it. It's more efficient. I'm going to invest in doing something better. Like, it's just, the majority of people are going to wait till it hurts too much to make those changes.
You're right. You're the vast majority. I would say like 90% or more. Right. The vast majority of people
I agree.
will wait. So again, right. So here's one thing that you and I have in common. I think you said that you really lean into risk. Now, most people are risk averse. So there's two things, right? There's two things that hurt people. One is most people are risk averse. And two, most people have sort of a scarcity mindset. And those two things will kill you. They will kill your business. So, and those are big topics. I don't know if you want to talk about those, but I think what happens is for that person who is doing 15 deals and I talk to them or you talk to them and we go, hey, let's start to work, let's start to put some procedures in place, or, hey, let's talk about hiring. That scarcity mindset kicks in. Right. And risk averse. And they're like, wait a second. I don't want to go out and pay an admin. Right. Let me go try to recruit a buyer's agent. Right. That's what everybody wants to recruit first. But then here's the thing that kills them. Well, then they go, well, what do I have to offer? Right. Nobody's going to join me. Right. So, I deal with this all the time. I mean, I get these emails from this show all the time. What do you like? I don't know. What's your take on that? I'm sure you have a bunch.
Well, I'd say, I love working with sales systems first, because I think people are getting leads and often they're not converting them to capacity, or they haven't really they don't have a systematic approach to their own sales strategy. So personally, I wouldn't encourage, or myself, I wouldn't want to, bring a buyer's agent into a platform that I can't have synergy both systematically and values and culture. I think they're both really important. So if I don't have my business, structured in a way that I can have unlicensed help me, I would agree. I think you don't have as much value. For A, you don't have as much value to offer to the recruit, but B, it's a good chance you're going to feel like you're babysitting, because if you're not structured yourself in how you do sales and you can't translate and train somebody on that, I don't mean shadow, but actually train them on the core of it, you're probably going to get frustrated and feel like you're spinning your wheels, and that'll cost you money. Yeah. So to me, if you can segment, how you do sales, and really, and again, it can feel slow. So you might want the admin just to do this for you. It might feel too painful for you. But what are all the steps that you do in your business? Which ones are licensed? Which ones are not? And then how can you break down what you do so that the next step after the admin's doing all the unlicensed side of it is that now you can train somebody else on that, whatever is left, the 60%, 20, our teams, we always say they're doing 20% of the overall sales process, but then they're 80% of the time face-to-face with clients. So it's easier to be mastery at what they do, but that's because we've broken it all down. So I would say, how can you become more efficient on your own by getting that unlicensed help, allow it to organize your business, which will give you a foundation, and then plug another agent in. And then you'll figure out that you didn't build as strong of a foundation as you thought, because that's what always happens.
Always.
Expand,
yeah,
right?
I agree. So can you talk to, because a lot of people are hearing this and I'm sure it's resonating for a ton of people and they're like, yeah, I got to segment the sales side of my business. Fundamentally, mechanically, can you walk us through how somebody might start that process of segmenting the sales side of my business?
Well, so the majority of people probably just are not going to do it. I mean, this is why I'm in business and lots of other people are in business because, we all have our strengths and weaknesses, right? Like with team, we don't have comparison. We have, we say we go from, individual to conscious mindset to collective. So my vision of team is a collective. So it's conscious, people who have moved a bit further away from ego. They know what they're great at. They know what other people are great at, so they know who to help them with which perspectives. I'm really strong with efficiency systems, idealist mentality, right? So I can break it all down because I want to help people have targets every step of the way. So how would you do it? I think, the way we did it was breaking down every single step. So, the prospecting step, what's required there? What's our protocol? How often do we call a new lead? How often do we call a follow-up lead? How do we use that with the CRM? What type of accountability do we have for that if we are a team? And then what do we say when we're calling those people? That's just the first step. And then we would have, for us in our system, we'd have med appointment, we'd have market education, we'd have showings. This is for a buyer, obviously. We'd have negotiations and then potentially firming up the deal. And then we have COI systems. But when you look at that, like if I teach it, the big overview is like a piece of DNA, but there's systems in every single one of those checkpoints, bubbles, whatever you want to call it. And there's also expectations for performance, which is one of the most powerful things you can do when you bring somebody into an environment and you say, hey, this is what's normal. This is what everybody who does on our team does. And you actually train them with that and show them that. You're much more likely that people won't rise to your, 100% superstar expectations, but they'll rise like much, much higher than they typically would in an environment without accountability or without expectations of, hey, everybody on our team signs like 95% plus of every buyer who sits down in front of them to exclusivity. When you think that that's normal, you're much more likely to achieve that. Like there's some teams who do, licensed assistant support when you hit 48 deals a year, and there's some that do it when you hit 70 deals a year. Like you can't tell me that if you are recruited to a 70 deal a year average agent, like average per agent team, and you see that around you all the time and you're new to the business, I can't believe anyone's argument who would tell me that they wouldn't achieve higher than walking into, the typical brokerage or,
Sure.
In Ontario, our province here, the average is like 2.5 deals per agent, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Well, okay. So this is, I'm just going to ask you this. So, do you have, worksheets that you give your clients and maybe you want to share with the audience where people go, okay, what is the framework to help me think through, prospecting and then protocols and lead follow-up and that sort of a thing?
Yeah, we have overview, definitely, for the full system. And then we have, presentations or scripts or mindset or webinars to support all of those steps. So that like when people recruit with us, they'll have us do their onboarding and then over time kind of learn how to do it and do it in-house. But yeah, I'm trying to think, I don't have like a publicly posted, like we just released a bunch of different articles on onboarding with Inman team and REM in
Sure.
Canada. And yeah, so if anyone reaches out or messages me on social, I'm happy to send them all those links. Like we publish stuff like that all the time to help.
Okay. Yeah. And if you want to have somebody in your team, send them to me. I can try and post them on the show notes here. But
awesome.
So when we were talking about, the structure and the overview, when you started explaining it, the first thing you said was, okay, prospecting, and then let's determine how you do that, right? How you prospect, what forms and fashions you prospect, and then let's get into the protocol of it, right? How do you follow up? How often, right? Email, call, text, that sort of thing. This is a huge one for people because if we just look at the first bucket of prospecting, most people don't want to do it. You and I both know this. Most people don't want to prospect. What they want to do, right, is everybody wants they want their phone to ring, right? Like, hey, Toby, hey, Kathleen, come list my house. That's what people want. And people, then they'll try to do social media, right? All these hands-off approaches. When you were taking someone or a small team or an individual going from 20 deals to 100 deals, can you talk us through how you tell them, how do you coach them through the prospecting process? Meaning, what would you say? What are the kinds of prospecting everybody should be doing? Versus marketing.
Yes. What are the type of prospecting? I think that depends on the age old, right? Like, do you have time or money or a combination? Like, if we have people who have time but they don't have money, they're still they might be doing the door knocking, right? They might be doing open houses, things like that. The people who have more money and less time are more so, investing in direct response marketing. Some of them are doing open houses. Some of them are not doing any at all. So prospecting, we would have, systems for like their center of influence, including past clients, friends and family. We want to make it easy, right? Like, I think one of the biggest dangers is we mix, client experience or client service with prospecting, and they're two completely different things. There's no way that you can become, a 100 deal year agent, at least on your own, or potentially scaling with a team. If you're a 10-person team, you want to hit 100 deals, that might be a different story. But if you want a really high efficiency business as an agent or a team, that's one of the most dangerous ones. That's why we do the segmented selling, because we see people all the time, providing extensive amounts of service to people who are a prospect who we need to be communicating benefit of working with us, right? So one of the big pieces of separating these steps is just for our brain. Like, who lives in the database? There's so much research, like you said, on capacity. Like our brains are not as powerful as we'd like to think they are. Like they can overload very easily and we can drop things very easily. Just when they put, software systems into restaurants, they did this type of research. Like the servers didn't want the software system. They were adamant that we can remember more on our own. I've been doing this forever.
Sure.
I memorize all the orders. But then they did a test of half the restaurant with the servers memorizing it, the other half with them using the new touchscreen processor. It might not have been touchscreen then, but anyways, the software system, right?
Yep.
What they found out was the people using the software system were able to service 3 times the tables with less errors than the people who were trying to memorize it. And it's the exact same thing for us with, prospecting. Like if we utilize a well-organized CRM and all of the plans properly, we can do exponentially more. And our brains now just focused on the active people about to buy and sell. Everyone else lives in the database. So I think for us, prospecting is much more about understanding the psychology of the different marketing sources and where they're likely at mentally based on the marketing they came into the team from. But after that, to have a consistent prospecting system, like everybody gets, either an outbound or inbound version of a call. After that, everybody gets the same follow-up approach. Like they're all in that same process so that we can be, stealth laser, like 99 out of 100 on those calls because it's simplistic and we have a clear bullseye.
So I agree with everything you said. No question. I love it. You think very much like me. Unlike I get some people on here who I don't buy a word they say, and I can be mean sometimes. So I agree with everything you said. But here's what I'm trying to get at, right? So okay. Some people have more time, some people have more money, but here's what I tell people. If you have $30,000 a month to deploy in marketing / advertising, that's great. But no matter what, you should still have in your business certain sort of foundations, right? Certain sort of outbound calls, certain sort of outbound emails, right? You need to be outbounding stuff, right? And doing open houses and circle marketing. And then we can layer on top of that, radio, television, outbound direct marketing, or direct response marketing. So kind of what I'd like to know is, because most people, again, as you said, in Canada, right, the average agent is doing 2.5 deals. Ridiculous.
Well, Ontario.
Okay, let's call it the world, because it's it's not too much different from everywhere else. So what are the certain outbound foundations that are fundamentally cost nothing, right? Because this is how you started your business early on, sweat equity stuff. What are those foundational pieces that we should all have in our business? I mean, in terms of prospecting, is that too broad of a question? It might be.
Well, yeah. I think people. And the reason I'm hesitating is I think it's an area we customize. Like typically, we always look at individual to team to organizational, right? Like the big teams, they're beyond a team. Like they're organized. So we've had people, typically, the reason I'm bringing this up is typically we don't focus on branded advertising or brand, recognition until we're in the organizational phase in our model. Before that, everything is, cost per lead or time to create lead, which still has a cost, but we're looking at, how can we as quick as possible build the database so that we have the chance to then have spin-off from repeat referral. So, I think outbound calling, you should always be having a system for yourself and if you're a team, your agents for anybody who's a past client, friend or family, a system when an agent joins your team to reach out to all those people, to put them in the CRM. That's so basic and so many people miss it, right? And it's huge. You go into a strong seller's market, you need a warm database to be working off of for sure. So I think that's a main go-to. A lot of the big teams that we work with, they all are heavily investing in online leads. Like some of them are really towards Google pay-per-click still, like they find that return to be better. Some of them are mixing into social. More of our smaller individual teams are doing social online lead gen. So I think, if you have the money, then investing in leads is a great idea if you have the time and later on inside sales. Not all of our teams do open houses. Like I know you said that for a basic, like we really test with that. For some of them in their markets, it's great. For some of them, they find that, they've got strong inside sales, their agents are hopping, and the amount of opportunities that they get sitting in an open house versus being out with clients and, having somebody fill their schedule no longer makes sense. Like they've gone to that extent of leverage.
Right. You're exactly. So, okay. You're right. Right. Okay, so maybe you don't know this, but what we do here, and we do it in Canada, but we put people on radio and television. Okay, so I have people come to me with small budgets or big budgets, and people come to me with doing 200 deals, and they're like, "Hey, let's do radio," and I'm like, "Great, let's talk about this other stuff." And I see so many holes, I'm like, foundationally that they're not doing right. So that team that you just mentioned, who may not find value in open houses, I would say there's always value in open houses, and circle marketing that open house, that listing that you have, and if you don't think that you have the capacity or you don't think it's valuable, it's because your current staff is more valuable than that. Meaning, go hire somebody else who just got their license and put them in that open house. So okay, I get you. I was just hoping we could. You did great. I was hoping, we could get sort of a checklist for those people who doing 8 deals and going, yes, I need to, when I do get an open house, or, a listing, I should, flyer it, door knock it, call it, right? Circle market that. You know what I mean? Like those are things that we try to get people to do, whether they're at 10 deals or 200 or 400. But we got to start wrapping up because look, you're an absolutely fantastic person to talk to, but we started late. Let me ask this. What do you know now? Right? You've been down to the school of hard knocks and you've come out on top. What do you know now, Kathleen, that you wish you would have known when you started?
Now that I wish I know, that's a great question. I think what I know now that I wish I knew at the beginning was that, the people who are going to have the big growth stories and the big gains, that they're 100% committed to making it work. Like their focus is so much on, if this works for somebody else, it's just a matter of time until I make it work for myself. Whereas I think we can waste a lot of time ourselves, or in my business in coaching, with trying to help people who just are not committed to staying it till the end game. Like the people who really build the best businesses, it's not a question of if, it's a question of how. And they'll keep going until they get there, even if they have to switch their strategy. So I think I wish I knew it then, but to be honest, I was gifted to work with a lot of people like that in my early years, and maybe I took it for granted. Right. And as we expanded, I was like, oh, wait, there's other mindsets here, and it's a lot harder.
How do you manage? Again, that's great. And I would, I think very similarly, but I think most people, so here's what I heard, right? The 50 Cent, right? Do it or die trying, right? Something like that. But, I'm with that kind of, outlook on life, but most people, there's a certain appropriate timeline, right? Most people go, yeah, I will win or die trying, but they don't know what kind of time frame to put around that. How do you think you manage to, timelines with the people that you work with, right? Because everybody wants to build, Rome wasn't built in a day. We have all sorts of sayings, but everybody wants it right now, right? And they'll go, oh, I just did Google pay-per-click for 2 months. I spent $500 a month, right? Neither one of those things are appropriate. They're not going to work. But they go, yeah, that doesn't work. And I often talk to people. They're like, I did this, I did that, I did. None of it worked. And I'm like, dude, hold on. So how do you manage to again, timeline with people and what they want to accomplish?
Well, I think there's 2 things in what you said. I think the one thing is, I have a belief, and it's not my quote, but I don't know whose it is, but the physical universe doesn't lie. So, if you're saying I did it, but you're not getting the results, and we have a whole network of people who are getting the results, it's a matter of growth mindset. So we'll say, yeah, you know it, but you're not getting the results. So how well do you know it? Are you open to actually getting the nuances? Because for teams, our wins are in the margins, right? Like it's small little adjustments, small little improvements that give massive wins for us once we're heavily built.
Yep.
So I'd say that that's one piece of it. The other piece is the same thing as we do with buyers and sellers. We create expectations up front and we get buy-in for our process. I want to tell them when this is going to be a difficult hire, or when you might do, 5 recruitment info sessions before you actually select somebody. I want to prep that all up front, because when we get discouraged and we tap out is when expectation and reality have too big of a gap. So if I can create that and get their buy-in for the process before we start, turn on the car and start moving, then I'm much better to get them to stay in the long run. But if I just say, oh, I'm going to teach you this today, but they don't know how that fits into the overall system, yeah, they're going to tap out, not just because they're not sure it's working for them, but they also probably will lose confidence in me.
Right. I love it. Do you have, you sound like you've always sort of performed at a high level. Do you have a daily habit or routine you think has contributed to your success?
100%. Like my biggest resource or prosperity for me is energy. Like everything's energy. If I have energy, you know, my health is good. I believe money is just energy exchange. Like if I don't give enough value to the community or knowledge, then I'm not going to make more money. If I can give more value, I make more money, essentially. So for me, it's all about energy. So yeah, in the morning, I'll do, you know, my bulletproof coffee. I do intermittent fasting. I go to a lot of yoga. I am a fair weather runner, which I proudly admit now because, you know, it gets icy here. But I go to elliptical. I replace it. But in the summer, spring, and fall, I love to jog and run as well. But yeah, and mindset, like constantly, you know, meditation and mindset and going to personal development. Like I'm an eternal student. I'm always learning and growing. And if I didn't, like, honestly, I set my goals and my vision when my energy is optimal. If I don't keep my energy where it's optimal, I can't achieve what those visions are. I have to maintain my frequency. So that's my number one most important before anything else.
So how do you manage it? How do you manage it when you start to get off, right? When you start to get off track on your goals, right? Things are not happening and you go, yeah, look, Google pay-per-click, for example, right, is not working for me. I need to change the messaging or the color or the ad, right? How do you determine for yourself saying, well, hold on, I'm not giving it, my energy is not balanced. You know, I've not been working out and that's what's affecting my performance in this other area of my life. We know this happens, but so many times most of us we don't know how to allocate why we're not winning, right? We always go, oh, it's this. And a lot of times, I'm taking up your time, but a lot of times we go, this isn't working, and we stop working out, we stop eating right, and we just grab that burger because we're like, I gotta fix this thing. And then this goes back to like the capacity thing. Once I fix this thing, then I can go back and do yoga, right, and clear my mind. How do you keep yourself balanced?
How do I keep myself balanced? Well, I think, you know, I'm assuming it's for men too, but a lot of the women I work with, like, it's a hard call. Is it fatigue, or is it, you know, I need to like basically kick my ass and get some willpower and ramp back up? Because sometimes it is fatigue and we have to be careful with that. But I mean, I have the belief that low energy mentality creates low energy decisions. So, you know, if I'm low energy and I'm exhausted, it's not by accident that, you know, I might go to McDonald's that day. It's the same thing. I might skip my prospecting because my energy is low. So I believe, and I think a lot of high achievers, and, you know, whether I'm one or not, but I think a lot of them do believe that they create their own projections of the world. So, you know, if my energy is low, I am going to think, you know, pay-per-click maybe not working, conversions not working, just because, you know, it doesn't work anymore, when the reality is like, I'm not working. Yeah. Right. Like the way I'm processing the world isn't working. And I can't trust myself when I'm not in a strong state of mind because I'm seeing based on how I feel. So for me, it's like, how do I keep myself balanced? It's by knowing that everything that's great that happens in my life comes from abundance and comes from vision and comes from, you know, this ability to take exciting risks. You might be scared, but you're also excited. So if I'm not in that state of mind, I basically believe nothing good will come to me. So that's how I keep myself balanced. Like I have hardcore beliefs that put me into check.
But that's great. But how do you get back in check? 'Cause so many times we get out of balance and we just don't realize it until too late, right? Most of the time that happens for me. I mean, do you go get a massage? Like, what do you do to say, okay, hold on, let me clear my space and let me sort of step outside myself and really look at the world of my life and figure out where I'm too heavy and where I'm too light?
Yeah, well, I read, I mean, for sure, like constantly. So I'm constantly reading as a reset, but I also do things physically. Like I believe in doing, you know, I'll do cleanses. I'll do days where I'm doing much more exercise just to literally like clean anything negative. Like there, you know, so many different spiritual beliefs or religious beliefs, you know, it's like clearing energy to get back to where we're whole and strong and core. And, you know, congruence for me is a big part of achievement. So if I want to get back to that place, basically I want to, you know, either do like, I'll go and do Reiki, or I'll do massage, or I'll go to much more yoga, or I'll go into like a personal development that's more energetic. I mean, this is why I've invested in certifications in like, you know, energy mapping and, you know, pranic healing and all this stuff that some people who in hardcore business are like, you do what? But because like you said at the start of the show, once, you know, our people are selling like 80, 90, 100 homes a year, I'm not focusing every single coaching call on their system. Sure, we do talk about that and we prep with market changes, but everything is energy and capacity. Everything is how can you not be scratched as much or frustrated as much or exhausted as much as a typical agent. Therefore, you know, you can just flow through things and do so much more business without feeling the weight of it. like that's our whole world at that point.
Yep.
So yeah, like it's constant resets, and I never feel guilty about a reset because it means I'm aware enough to know I was off.
That's fantastic. Most people do feel guilty. That is so great. And I'll tell you, again, I know a ton of coaches that charge a ton of money, right? 10,000, crazy amounts of money, and they really don't. They focus on the stuff that you're talking about. They don't focus on, other than if they're talking about systems and processes, they really talk about how is your life, right? Where are you getting out of balance? Because if we can keep ourselves in balance, everything else will work out. That's how high achievers stay high achievers. Hey, Kathleen, you've been fantastic. For the people who are in Canada or anywhere that want to know more about you, where do they go?
Yeah, they can go to ittakes.team, ittakes.team. And yeah, we have clients all across North America. So anybody who's interested in what we do, connect. And we're all over social media, Kathleen Black or Kathleen Black Coaching and Consulting. And we run Ultimate Team Summit, which is a website as well, which is a cool conference in November in Niagara Falls for all the big teams come out and connect, which is awesome.
Fantastic. Kathleen, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Let's go. Yeah. For those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, yo. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated